All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little San Francisco Giants video. Do the Giants have a leading candidate to be their manager? We'll discuss it next. But we are also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. This week in Underdog Fantasy, I am going with this is what my choices are for what I'm going with this weekend in Underdog Fantasy. I'm going Brandon Ayuk higher than 5 receptions Monday night. Jake Moody higher than 1.5 field goals made. Brock Purdy higher than 1.5 passing touchdowns. Daniil Hunter higher than a half a sack. And the one they'll give you for free this time is Kirk Cousins higher than a half a total yard on Monday night against the 49ers. All right, let's talk a little baseball here, a little Giants baseball. According to NBC Sports Bay Area, Bob Melvin is now the front runner to land the Giants' open managerial job, as the Padres reportedly have granted permission for the Giants to interview Melvin. Now, Bob Nightingale is reporting that Ryan Flaherty and Mike Schilt are the two top candidates to replace Bob Melvin as the Padres manager once he's hired by the Giants. So it sounds like Melvin, it's almost a decided deal at this point that he is going to be the next manager of the San Francisco Giants. Now, he is a former, if you don't know, if you're not an old school Bob Melvin fan or old school Giants fan, you probably don't remember Bob Melvin was drafted by the Orioles at a Cal in the 3rd round. Actually drafted by the Orioles at a high school, then drafted by the Tigers in the 1st round out of Kenyatta College in Redwood City. He's a Bay Area guy. Menlo Atherton High School, Kenyatta College, and Cal Bear. And eventually he got traded to the Giants and was a Giant in 1986. 1986, he was a Giant. 1986, 87, 88, he was a Giant, and then moved on, played for Baltimore, Kansas City, Boston, the Yankees, finished up with the White Sox, began with Detroit, broke in 1985, and was a backup catcher and a pretty good player, a pretty good backup catcher, not much of a hitter, to be honest. He was a 233 hitter with a 268 career on base. He has 35 career home runs. He played 10 years in the big leagues, 3 years with the Giants, 3 years with Baltimore. As I said, 1 in KC, 1 with the Yankees, 1 with Detroit, a year in Boston, a year with the White Sox. All in all, 7 years in the American League, 3 years in the National League, and had a decent player baseball card. And then has been a very good manager. He's now 61 years old. He managed first with the Mariners in 2003, and they won 93 games. He won 90 games plus 6 times in his career, 93 and 69 with the Mariners in 2003. He then managed the Diamondbacks to a 90 and 72 win season in 2007. Then came to the A's in 2011, and the 2012 A's won 94 games under Bob Melvin. The 2013 A's went 96 and 66 under Bob Melvin. So he won 94 games plus back-to-back years. Won 97 with 2018 with the A's, won 97 again in 2019 with the A's. And had been with the Padres, came to the Padres in 2022, went 89 and 73. This year went 82 and 80. So the guy has a ton of experience. There's no doubt about that. 2 years with the Mariners, 5 years with the Diamondbacks, 11 years with the A's, 2 years with the Padres. So the guy has managed for 20 years in the big leagues and has managed over 1,500 games. And as I said, has won 90 games or more 6 times in his career. He was the 2007 NL Manager of the Year. He was the 2012 AL Manager of the Year, and he won it again in 2018. So he's a 3-time winner of the Manager of the Year award. He's a smart guy. He's a baseball lifer. I really like the idea of Stephen Vogt or Jason Varitek because, those guys I think are going to be outstanding managers at some point. But I have no problem with the Giants going with Bob Melvin. I would love to know what happened in San Diego this year. I really would, because they had terrible chemistry. And I don't know what was going on there, but it just was a bad vibe all year. They underachieved dramatically. That was a 90-win team. I saw them in spring training. They had all the components, all the parts, all the pieces to win 90 games, and they were basically, barely above 500. 2 games over 500, 82 and 80, and they had to finish fast to get there. So, it was an underachieving Padre team for sure. But how much are you going to put that on Melvin? Overall, I would say he's a very good candidate, a very good choice. I could see him being the manager of the Giants for a number of years. Obviously he knows Farhan, and he's got his own credentials. It's not like you're not the one thing. If you went with Jason Veritek, if you went with Stephen Vogt, you'd be rolling the dice. And I don't think the Giants want to roll the dice. I think they want to go with the sure thing. Also another guy, the same reason I liked Veritek and Vogt was their catchers. And what was Melvin? Bo Mel was a catcher. So catchers are involved in every aspect of the game. They have a different perspective on the game than the rest of the 8 guys on the field. And I just think there's a reason why you see so many catchers make excellent major league managers. The first question I would ask Bob would be, what the heck happened in San Diego? Why did you guys underachieve to such a degree? And how come, with all your experience and all your talent as a manager and all your expertise, you could not get that team out of their funk, and you really couldn't get them to play to their talent level? I'd love to know. I'd love to hear what he has to say about it. I'd love to hear his perspective on why that team so dramatically underachieved this year. But overall, I would say if the Giants do decide to go with Bob Melvin, I think that's okay. I think it doesn't make me, especially on the heels of what we just saw with the Padres this year. It's not like, oh man, you put Melvin in the dugout and the Giants are going to the playoffs. It's still very much, he had much more talent in San Diego than he's likely to have next year in San Francisco. But maybe the vibe wasn't right. Maybe the coaching staff wasn't right. Maybe the personnel, the players' personalities didn't blend. I'll say this: he was, a very, very competent manager for a number of years in Oakland. And, as I said, you look at that record in Oakland, 853 wins, 764 losses. They won 53% of their games while he was there. So, um, he's over 500 in San Diego in the 2 years he was there, and he's over 500 after 20 years of managing in the big leagues, and he's got a wealth of experience. And it's not like anybody's going to sit there and go, man, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. He clearly does know what he's doing. I don't know that it's going to excite people. It's more just a guy who's competent in the dugout, but Bay Area guy who has a sense of the thing, has some credibility, has done it before. He can say, follow me. I know how to win close to 100 games, and he's done it. Back-to-back years of 97 wins in 2018 and 2019 with the A's without an overwhelming payroll. That's kind of proof that he's pretty competent. In his stint with the A's, which was 11 years, he won 94, 96, 97, 97. They really only had they were sub 500 in 2017, and they were sub 500 in 2016 and sub 500 in 2015. Other than that, he was basically, over 500 every year there. So I like Bob Melvin. I think he's a solid baseball man. Once again, my first question is, what the heck happened this last year in San Diego? But if the Giants decide they want to go with Bob Melvin, I think that's a solid choice. And, and there are people saying, well, what about Donnie Ecker? And what about this guy and that guy? Well, anytime you're going with somebody who hasn't done it, there's a chance it bombs. And so it's a little bit safer to go with somebody who, if you want to call for better or for worse, use the term retread. But, retread just means you have experience for the job that you're applying for. And there's nothing wrong with having experience in the job that you're applying for. So I've talked to Bob Melvin, at the ballpark. I've talked to him at Niner games before. I think he's smart. I think he knows this market. From being in this division, he knows what the Giants have as an organization. I think it's important, if Farhan's going to be here, that that's really the central relationship in any baseball organization, is the GM and the manager. So I would have liked to have seen the Giants move beyond Farhan and go into a totally new regime, but they've opted to keep him. And if you're going to have any success, you got to have a solid, grounded relationship between the manager and the general manager. And I think he's got that relationship with Bob Melvin, and I think that's important. So overall, I think Melvin would be a good choice, and it sounds like it's something that could get done. A lot of people are pushing for Ecker, who's Bruce Bochy's bench coach in Texas. But once again, he's there's no doubt he's a knowledgeable, qualified baseball man. But what's his managerial experience? And I just think that the Giants are looking for something more proven on the heels of Gabe Kapler. And Bob Melvin represents that. So overall, I think it's a good hire for the Giants if they decide to go with Bob Melvin. I like Veritek. I think he's smart and tough, and I think he's a tremendous leader. I like Stephen Vogt. I think he's got a great personality, smart, tough, fun guy. I think he's he's a little bit more of a light touch as far as I think he makes you laugh. He's got some personality. Melvin's more of a straight laced shooter guy. He's not going to tell a bunch of jokes, but he's competent and he's experienced and he knows the market and he knows the team and he knows Farhan. In a lot of ways, it's probably a good fit. All right. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. And thanks to Underdog Fantasy as well for being a sponsor of this video. And thanks to all you guys for supporting the Krug Show on YouTube.